Hello, and welcome to episode 73 of Gondor Calls for Ale, a Middle-earth strategy battle games podcast. I am your host, Sam Gallagher, and once again, with me is my brother Ben.
Hello, that's right. I am back. I've returned from my stupor at the awesome bald model. I was felled by how cool it was. Couldn't make it in for the last episode, as Sam I believe mentioned. But I am back. I'm here, and I'm excited to talk about more Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and Ben, hopefully not just Lord of the Rings, but also what are you drinking? See what I did there?
Oh well,
Segment.
Sam. I have myself for this episode a Strider's cider. Not all those who wander are lost, but they could certainly use a drink.
Very good.
And what about you, Sam? What are you drinking for this episode 73?
Oh, Ben, I have gone for perhaps the most Gondor calls for ale I've ever had, which is of course a Sauron's IPA. Concealed in its can, Ben, this drink of Mordor sees all. Its taste pierces cloud, shadow, earth, and flesh. You know of what I drink.
Oh, very good, very good. And I thought I had a good tagline this episode.
I was just very pleased with the IPA.
Oh, I mean, yeah. How could you not? How could you
Obviously,
not?
written down, it's spelt like the I in your face or on your tower, depending who you are. So this is, as I mentioned in my FAQ coverage episode, this is another talking head Gondor calls for ale episode, which I think Ben and I both enjoy doing. Hopefully, you enjoy listening to and viewing it. So I'll quickly go over what we're going to be sort of talking about in this episode, and then move on into some hobby spotlights and some list building stuff. So it's going to be a sort of 3 segmented episode. We may cut one of them or more out, depending how long I ramble about each segment. Doing well so far, 2 minutes down. So we're going to be talking firstly about sort of some prep for Adepticon, which is one of the biggest events. Basically the 2 biggest events we attend each year is Adepticon and Nova. Nova's local for me and in the area we grew up, so it feels sort of less like travel to a big convention. That's also a smaller convention, but the tournament is bigger. Anyway, so we've got prep for Adepticon, which we'll be talking about, which will sort of lead us into a conversation about why we play and what armies and stuff we pick, and what all of sort of the like competitive competition part of the Middle-earth strategy battle game. And then finally into a bit of an announcement for Gondor Calls for Ale.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We've got some exciting stuff coming up at the end of the episode. I mean, all the way through the episode is going to be exciting, but that announcement is going to be extra specially exciting.
Classic. Ben couldn't get away without something being extra special in an episode.
That's right. That's right. All the episodes are extra special, Sam, when I'm here. You noticed that the FAQ wasn't an extra special FAQ episode, Sam. So
No, indeed not. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of the episode, we're gonna look at some sweet models. I think specifically just one this episode, and some cool army lists. So this is our hobby spotlight and our army list review. Build us an army. I'm not sure what Ben named the slide. He did show me. I have forgotten. If you want to participate in this and basically have us talk about your models or army lists, or basically just have a chance to show them off on the podcast, you can of course join our Discord server. There'll be a link in the description of wherever you're listening or viewing this episode. It continues to grow. It continues to be a community of super awesome people. So definitely consider joining that if you want. And every time we record an episode, we send out a message and sort of say like, hey, if you've got stuff you want to show off, show it off now, send it over. And we do, or we try to.
Yeah, so far so good. All right, so on into what we're showing off. We have here an awesome paint job. I really like the color scheme of this. Aonor, Last King of Gondor.
Yeah, very cool. It's in like a tealy green, and he's blue cloak. He looks awesome. He's super
Yeah.
cool.
And the white horses are tricky to do.
Yeah.
Mine look a little pasty. I think this looks really nice.
Yeah, I love the texture on his cloak,
I
especially.
know that picture to the right of the image with him from behind in the cloak just looks so good. The gold and the blue, really nice. And the base looks fantastic as well. It's one of those cool city bases.
Yeah, pretty movie accurate Minas Tirith cobblestone. I think if you look at the movies, there are all those sort of smaller cobblestones in like arching rows or whatever. But yeah,
Okay.
a beautiful model, lovely, and a pretty cool, unique color scheme. I've seen some of the rest of the army, and they're all in this like this green teal color, which is very striking.
There he is on foot as well. Which is,
Got to paint those dismounts, unlike
that's
somebody on this
We
podcast.
saw the struggle with that, so well done there for getting this done.
Yeah, beautiful, lovely. Same color scheme, which makes sense. Dismounted model. Still love the texture on the cloak. It's very nice.
All right, so that was our hobby highlight. And again, if you want to join our community on Discord, don't hesitate to do so. On Sam into building an army, because it sounds like the line from the movies. You see, they labeled it "Build me an army worthy of Gondor calls for ale," Sam. So you can remember it for next time.
Yeah.
All right, we have here a Defenders of the Pelennor army list. 800 points, only 28 models. It is, of course, led by Aragorn. Well, I say, of course, it could be led by all kinds of people. This one is led by Aragorn Strider. In his warband, there's a Warrior of the Dead with the banner, 7 Warriors of the Dead with shield, and 1 Warrior of the Dead with shield and spear. In Warband 2, we've got Legolas Greenleaf with an elven cloak. Warband 3 is Irilas, Captain of the Guard. He's got 4 Citadel Guard with longbow, 3 Citadel Guard with spear, and 5 Warriors of Minas Tirith with shield and spear. And finally, we have Eomer, Marshal of the Riddermark, on Firefoot who's got armor, shield, and throwing spears. In his warband, there are 2 Royal Guard with horse and throwing spears, and 1 Rider of Rohan with throwing spears. And there we have it.
What is the army bonus for this? Do you know?
Once per game, you get free heroic combats on all of your characters. Or it might not be. I think each character can just do it once. They get a free heroic combat.
I see that, but I'd actually just pulled it up. That's why I was.
Well,
it is
am I
each
correct?
hero in your army can once per game declare a free heroic combat, so you can do it. You don't have to do it all in one turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, 28 models, pretty low for 800 points, but definitely.
I like the idea of the Warriors of the Dead being the front line spear wall backed up by the Warriors of Minas Tirith. I think that's pretty cool. I think I might like to see, if you're going to have a model count this low, I'd be tempted to try and put a few more Citadel Guard in there. I like the Citadel Guard a lot this edition. I think that +1 to wound makes, next to Irilas, makes them very cool.
Well, they're maxed out. He can only lead 12. There are 5
Warriors. There are 5 Warriors of Minas Tirith. I'd be tempted to try and upgrade or whatever, swap a few of them to Citadel Guard.
Yeah, I think this is probably like a perfectly reasonable and probably pretty good army. You've got some good heroes. I would probably drop Legolas because I think he might be kind of oppressive in this edition, and I don't know how single drop Legolas doesn't seem like the most fun, and that way you could potentially add more. I guess you got 9 warband slots with Aragorn, and you've got a bunch with Eomer. So, but I do love the inclusion of Eomer. I think I've been seeing a lot of Men of the West armies, and none of them have Eomer and Rohan models really. So I think I like the idea of Eomer and Rohan also being included.
Yeah, agreed. I kind of second that about Legolas. I'm not a huge fan of one-person warband drops in general, and I do think Legolas could be a little oppressive this edition. We shall see. It's still early days, and I also really like the addition of Eomer. I think he's awesome. All right, Sam, enough about the Defenders of the Pelennor. Onwards into our next army. We have Army of the White Hand. Do you want to read through this one?
Sure. I'm just quickly going to say that I think one single model warband drops are really good, except in the one Maelstrom mission we currently have. Like in Maelstrom, they become slightly worse, but you probably roll Legolas first. Doesn't matter where he goes because you can then like pile in everyone else around them, and that's perfectly fine. But that is, anyway, that is my thoughts on single drop warbands, one individual warbands. I will now go through this army of the White Hand, which is a 500-point army with slightly more models than our 800-point army we just looked at, which is 38 models. Only 7 might, but only 7 might. This is 500 points. That's quite a lot of might. So we have the army led by Saruman in his warband. We have 1 Isengard Orc with banner, 5 Isengard Orcs with shield, 5 Isengard Orcs with spear, 2 Isengard Orc warriors with two-handed weapon, 2 Wildmen of Dunland with flaming brand, 2 Wildmen of Dunland with light shield and flaming brand, and then of course we've got Grima Wormtongue, and we've got a Wildman Chieftain is our next warband. In his warband there are 4 Wildmen of Dunland with spear, 1 Wildman of Dunland with light shield, 2 Wildmen of Dunland. And then in the final warband, we've got a Wildman Chieftain with 7 Wildmen of Dunland with bow and 3 Wildmen of Dunland. So this army, what? Saruman can use his, he can control the weather kind of thing, right? Where he once per game, he can reduce your opponent's movement by 2 inches, I think, or half.
3 or even half, yeah. It's pretty severe.
He can call down lightning, and he can do something else. What else do you get in this? I'm going to pull it up, Ben. This should have been prepared.
While you talk about it, I will say too that part of the gimmick for this list is that it's being used out of the starter box. So the Wildman Chieftain are going to be, for this army list, they're going to be Wolf and Targ. And I imagine the Saruman and the Orcs are coming out of the Isengard battle host.
You don't get Orc warriors.
You don't get Orcs in that one, do you? No. But I do like this idea. This is an army list that I've been thinking about running. Saruman, bunch of Orcs, bunch of Wildmen of Dunland with. I'd throw a few more spears in there myself, but I think you can't go wrong with the weapon upgrades on the Wildmen. They're pretty cool. The light shields I mostly use just for filling in leftover points.
Yeah. All right. So I'll just go through these army special rules while I have it open. So other friendly models that can draw line of sight to Saruman get +1 bonus to their courage for tests they're required to make. Then he's got his Voice of Saruman. He, instead of casting spells, he can use one of these abilities once per game. He can conjure lightning, choose a point on the battlefield at least 12 inches away from friendly model. With the exception of Grima Wormtongue, each model within 2 inches of the chosen point suffers a strength 6 hit. If a cavalry model is affected, then both the mount and the rider suffer the hit. So then you've summoned Gale until the end of the turn. Enemy models halve their move value. Super good. You've got Call Thunder. Until the end of the turn, enemy models have the Fearful special rule, also super good. And then you've got Spies of Saruman. Saruman can draw line of sight from friendly Crebain models on the battlefield. Obviously not relevant in this one, but still pretty good.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, I like this. I have yet to try Saruman, but I'm excited to give him a go. I think this is a cool way to play the army. Makes you less sad that all your Uruk-hai aren't fight 5, like
right.
me, and
like Horde.
and you just get so many models. So
yeah, I think that the Wildman Oathkeeper would be a cool addition to this army.
Yeah,
he's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah. Probably slightly less relevant in an army because he makes them all fearless, which is definitely great, but slightly less relevant when you potentially have courage 6+ Wildman.
I guess that's true. It is awesome that they go to courage 6+ if they can see Saruman.
Yeah,
very cool.
So yeah, there we have it. If as we said, if you're interested in showing off your devilish army list you have crafted, or some awesome models you've painted, or terrain you've made, or whatever else, definitely jump in our Discord and check out our community, check out the channels, and we'll let you know when we're looking for more stuff to show off.
Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to seeing you there.
And Ben, and with that, I think we're gonna do a few more of our plugs, of course.
That's right.
The first one being, as you can see, we are, if you're viewing, if you're listening, you'll just have to listen, hear it roll off my tongue, much like the voice of Saruman. We are, of course, still sponsored by the Baron of Dice, the producer of premium wargaming dice, Ben. If you want some beautifully hand-swirled resin dice with no microbubbles that have our personal Gondor calls for ale guarantee to roll sixes at least some of the time, then you should look no further than the link in the description of wherever you're listening or viewing this episode. If you look slightly further in that description, you can find a promo code which you can use in combination with that link to get a nice discount on those awesome Lord of the Rings themed dice. So consider checking that out. Helps us out, helps the Baron out, and will hopefully help you with some sixes or ones, depending if you need those.
All right. And with that, Sam, onwards into our next thing, I think, which is going to be talking about preparing for Adepticon.
Yeah. I think we can, at this point, probably dispense with the slide. We were not the most prepared for this episode, so no pictures as of yet of what we're working on. Got to keep it. We'll say it's because we're keeping it safe and/or keeping it secret.
And/or secret, right?
Okay, Ben. So Adepticon. What you want to give? Paint me a picture with your words. What is Adepticon? I have never heard of it or don't really know the deal.
I don't really know the deal. Well, Adepticon is a massive, I think probably definitely one of the biggest, if not the biggest in North America, wargaming conventions. It's thousands of people, and they're in a new location this year, which is even further for us to travel. They're in Milwaukee this year. It used to be in the suburbs of Chicago. But now
Opportunity
we're going
missed not to say you need an army of. It's a convention of thousands, nay, tens of thousands.
Yeah, true.
I don't know if it is actually tens of thousands, but
it's probably not. I think it's like 6,000 or so people, which is why they've had to move to a bigger convention because Lord of the Rings was banished to a different hotel in a couple of years past. But now we're back. We're all in one big convention hall together, which is very, very exciting. So that when we finish our games early, walk away from our tables having crushed our opponents or lost early or whatever, we can go enjoy the convention hall, which will be super, super fun. And I've discovered that hanging out and hobbying in conventions, wargaming conventions, is actually super fun. So I'm looking forward to getting a little bit of, hopefully not last minute, but just extra hobbying done at the convention. That will be fun.
yeah. So this is obviously Adepticon, as we're talking about. It's in Milwaukee this year. I don't know that if Ben mentioned that. It's the end of March, the 26th through the 30th of March, I believe. I think the 26th is sort of like the warm-up day for it. But I assume most people have probably heard of it, but it is certainly my favorite. It's definitely the best convention I've ever been to specifically for tabletop wargaming. I think there's an argument there that something like Gen Con is potentially a better convention if you're more interested in board games or role-playing games and stuff, but for tabletop wargaming, Adepticon hands down is, in my opinion, the best convention. As far as for us, what Adepticon means, right, is it means many games of Lord of the Rings. So, do you want to talk through the events that we're planning to attend?
We're 700 points events for the Grand Tournament this year, which is the biggest, grandest tournament in North America. We had over 100 players, 130 players last year?
No, it's not the biggest, Ben.
No.
Nova is the biggest.
Had more players? I thought Adepticon had more players than Nova. No, I'm
Nope.
wrong. Nope, mistaken. Oh, mistaken. Second biggest. Anyway, 700 points, lots and lots of players. 6 games again this year, which will be very exciting. But preceding that is, of course, the doubles event, which is also 700 points, but doesn't have an even split on your forces, which is interesting. So you're not locked into 2 350-point armies. There's allowed to be, like, you could do one 300-point force and one 400-point force, which will make for an interesting doubles games. I'm also not sure what scenarios we're going to be using for the doubles, because there are no released
Match play guide for sure.
Going to be out of the last edition's match play guide.
Almost guarantee.
Ah, okay. I wasn't sure if we were going to be using the new
Nah,
Or the current 6 scenarios just with 4 players.
I doubt it. Yeah, I'm gonna go in day order.
Sure. Yeah, I got it
And
all.
say so. Nothing, no Lord of the Rings events on Wednesday. On Thursday, I believe there is. I think they're once again doing like you can show up and they have a bunch of different scenarios you can show up and play. They certainly did like the Battle of Bywater and stuff in years past. There is also Chaos and Arda and Battle Companies on Thursday, I believe.
Yep.
Friday is the doubles, as Ben said, at 700 points. Doesn't have to be evenly split, which we can certainly talk about a little bit later. And then Saturday and Sunday are the grand tournament, which, as Ben said, is 6 games and makes Sam very sad because it's 4 games on Saturday, which I appreciate. It means you don't have to get up super early on Sunday to play 3 games and get out of there, but it starts at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. and ends. It's a 12-hour day. It either starts at 8 and ends at 8, or starts at 9 and ends at 9. And it's wait, I'm just
it's a lot of Lord of the Rings. A lot of Lord of the Rings. At least it's not 1,000 points. So.
True, but it's not. I think it was initially supposed to be 800 points, which would be I would be like, let's do 500 points if we're doing 4 games, but yeah, so
550.
So super great event. Guys who run it do a great job. The Chicago Hobbit League, it's excellent. For me, Adepticon also means Golden Demon. I'm still chasing that beautifully spray painted piece of resin. So that's another thing. But I guess the first thing to talk about then is, as we've talked about the doubles, we're not sure what scenarios it's going to be.
Okay.
I'm convinced doubles is going to be, as I said, just out of the old match play guide, it makes the most sense. It's all in there. Nothing in the game has changed that affects any of that, with the exception of that the current scenarios score at 20 points, but it doesn't make a difference. Well, that's super annoying. I muted that on my phone, and it comes through on my laptop as well because Apple likes to connect fucking everything. Anyway, so I don't think we have 100% know what we're going to play yet.
No, we've got a pretty good idea of what we're going to play. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, if you want to. You're the one who's sort of in charge and under control.
Yeah, in charge. Haha, I see what you did there. We're going to be playing, hopefully going to be playing the Riders of Éomer. With one of us controlling Gandalf and a bunch of riders, and one of us controlling Éomer and a bunch of riders, which I think will be a good, fun doubles army for us to play.
Yeah, it's funny. I was listening back to one of our Nova episodes, and we sort of say that what always ends up happening is we focus on doing our GT army and just end up playing something random for doubles, which is once again true and kind of a shame. But yeah, I think Riders of Airmail will be fine and fun. It's something we have all the models; they're already all painted. All of that, all of those reasons to play it. I do think the not making it a 350 even split is kind of a bold choice. It's nice. It's like, oh man, well this one I'm taking Gandalf and have maxed out his warband, and we've got an extra 30 points. I can give that to Ben because he can take more models or whatever. Or probably the other way around because Gandalf's more expensive. Whatever it is, that's cool. That totally makes sense. What I don't like is the idea, and they say in their pack, they're like, this is a friend, and it's the name of the event is the friendly doubles. And they say in their pack, this is a friendly doubles, basically don't be a dick. I just think the challenge with a lot of these events is a lot of people are showing up to play the grand tournament, right? That's I'm going up to play and win the grand tournament. Oh, there's another event the day before, I'm going to be here, might as well play in it. And so I think you potentially get to this place where people aren't. I think by not making those rules, the majority of the people will take it in the way it's intended, but there will be some people who are just going to be like, oh, well, it wasn't it was a real rule, so I did this, and you're just that's
Yeah, I was trying to think of a way to really abuse it though, and I couldn't really. I mean, I'm not very good at doing that, but I couldn't really come up with one.
I mean, I think that the yeah, I mean, I guess like it's harder to abuse without the allies matrix now, but it does
Right.
mean that like you can take the Balrog and have him with a full warband, and the other person takes like a captain,
A
like
captain and 12 goblins. I guess that's true. I guess that's
you
true.
know,
That would be a miserable. I would not enjoy that as a doubles game to be that partner. Just having the captain, that seems really boring.
sure, or
You're
you
right.
do what
You're right.
like you do what sometimes happens, which is like one person is like, "This is the game I play, and I brought a friend," and some
Yeah.
of them like to just basically control their buddy's army anyway. And now you're like, "Well, I'm going to take two war bands and leave you with one." Like he's like, "Well, I just showed up with 12 dudes," and he's just like, it just." And I guess the other way to abuse it is if it is the previous or the current match play guide scenarios where things get deployed wonkily. If you're playing one where like, well, the Balrog or like Men of the West, Aragorn, I think has to always be the army leader.
Sure.
I can like put 500 points in Aragorn's warband, and then like I'll take Gwaihir and like just Gwaihir will be my other warband. I know where Aragorn's always going to deploy, and 12-inch moving Gwaihir can get to wherever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, again, I think the majority of people will take it in the way it's intended, but
As intended. Sure.
you're dealing with a large quantity of people who have fun playing the game in different ways, and that's the potential disadvantage. Whereas if it has to be split that way, I still think we should have done Smaug, pooled our points, and
Have you
just
played
played.
Smaug?
He's 700, I think.
Yeah, 700 on the nose. So
Yeah.
one of us just takes 0 points and one of us takes Smaug.
Yeah, but this would be my cunning plan, Ben, is we'd convert a two-headed Smaug, and we would have to come to mutual decision every single time, or we'd like roll off to if we have different
Right,
plans.
what we want to do on a card, on a piece of paper, and only if the pages align.
Right, it would be so good. We could argue with ourselves. It would be awesome. It would be so funny, but also like I think probably miserable for everyone else. So
Yeah, right. Just unkillable dragon in the middle of the table.
but yeah, so that is the friendly doubles at the Nova Open this year. And by that, I mean
It would be interesting to see. I guess with all of those armies, who someone has to be the leader. It'll just be like the Legendary Legion doubles armies.
Yeah.
Where the leader is just set. And
Yeah.
go off.
Which is cool. I think it works reasonably well. It's certainly easier to abuse when you know. I think if this was my event and if they want to reach out to me and make this happen, this would be the year to just write your own like insane double scenarios. Like just come up with bizarre deployments, like have a pizza shaped deployment or something, and just come up with really either like thematic or like pretty silly ones, and just like pick and so when you're like, yeah, we're just going to make it up and make it like really emphasize the friendly doubles thing, and you just sort of need the force of personality to be like, yeah, I wrote that, it doesn't actually make sense or work with what's happening here, I'm just going to make a call like now, and this is friendly doubles.
There's a multiplayer scenario that Games Workshop released that I've always wanted to play. It's for 3 players, and it was in a White Dwarf, and there's a hoard of gold in the middle of the board, and the objective of the game is to get into the middle of the board, take gold coins, and then move them back to your deployment zone, and you can only have 1 token at a time. You can't just have like 5 guys with 5 tokens running back. And every time you grab a token, there's a chance that you'll knock over the gold pile, and if you do, anyone in base contact with the gold pile is also knocked prone.
Nice.
That seems like the kind of thing that could be very entertaining as a doubles.
Yeah.
Four-way trying to get. You've got an ally, but you've got different deployment zones. You're trying to get gold coins. Maybe just abandon your deployment zone. Anyway, that sounds like a great idea, Sam.
All right, Ben. Well, now let's move on from the friendly but potentially competitive doubles into the straight up like competitive GT.
Yeah, 700 points. I am glad it was 800 points, although 700 points with the army that I decided to play threw me a little bit, Sam. I really struggled to write the 700-point army list. 650 is much easier to write for 750 for some reason. The 700 points really threw me. Did you have that experience?
Yes and no. I guess firstly, are we revealing what we're gonna play? Are
Oh,
you
I
gonna...
mean, I think at this point we're just going
Okay.
for that. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be 800 points because 6 games at 800 points is like brain numbing.
Yes.
I was going to play when that was announced. I was like, well, I'm going to play the three trolls because it's three models. I'll win fast, I'll lose fast. I could do a really cool, I could really take my time on doing them. I then played one game with them against you at like 600 something points. I was like, ooh, actually, I don't think this is going to be fun for your opponents. I think
No.
800 points is probably like I think they get more fun for your opponents the higher in points you go because they're like you're starting to pick abilities that are like less good and they have more heroes to answer them. But I was just like, there's also there was also part of me that was like, well, am I gonna like regret? I'm like so down on playing 4 games in one day just because that's like it's a lot. It takes a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Uh, but like is the reality I'm going to show up with an army that's like something like the three trolls and be like, oh, man, I came all of this way and this is what I'm playing for 6 games and all of
Drove
my
for
games
15
are like
hours and it.
45 minutes, like, is it worth it? And then um I decided I'm going to be playing the Defenders of the Hornburg, so a little Helm, Wraith of the Hornburg, Hera, Bride of Death, and I'll be taking Olwyn, so just those 3 heroes. And yeah, this was a funny one because I was like, man, I kind of wish it was 800 again because you could get more like you could take another hero and a decent number of troops. Like you could take Leaf and fill his warband and stuff, and you just could
Yeah.
get more models. And I think that's a pretty hard army to write for. Period. I think Rohan is a hard faction to write for because of the
Ooh.
change to throwing spears.
Yeah.
You're like, I can't have 50% spears, so I have this weird number of spears. What am I doing here?
Hmm.
And then Helm, being a hero of legend at 180 points that can't lead troops,
Right.
is like intense. You're like, woo, kind of hard to get a decent model count. I This part of me, I just thought about it that wishes Helm was like, he can never be the leader and can't lead troops, like or like you have to have another hero to enable you to like I don't know, or maybe I don't know,
Or give
whatever.
him no heroic tier so that he's like can challenge anybody because that'd be hilarious.
That would also be very
If he
funny.
just challenged captains or like
Yeah,
challenge you Legolas. Yeah.
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 So
Just
so
getting back punching heroes to death.
so I'm excited for it. I don't think it's going to be very good. I don't think I'll do very well, but I've been busily painting away basically an entire new Rohan army. I'm down to I've already painted 15 Rohan warriors with sword and shield, 10 Rohan warriors with throwing spear and shield. I've finished Helm at this point as well.
Ooh, very
So
cool.
I've converted the number of riders I need out of Knights of Arnor and new plastic.
Yeah, they look so sick. If you haven't seen them, hop on our Instagram. Sam's posted a few pictures. They're
Yeah,
the bottom halves of the Knights of Arnor, who are new Forge World, and nice cavalry models, and the top half are the shiny new Warriors of Rohan. You've got what, like 2 guys with axes. I love the one guy with the axe. He looks like he's just about to like completely just
yeah,
decapitate someone with that axe. It's very very cool pose. Cool pose.
yeah. I think it ended up being 2 with axes, 2 with swords, and I did 2 with bows.
Nice, nice, very cool.
And I've got to convert up an Olwen, and so I'm closing in. I think I've got what 6, 8, 9 models left to paint.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the 6 riders aren't 100% finished. I still need to do some sculpting on them. I need to entirely do Olwen foot and mounted. So we're getting a little close for comfort when also doing Golden Demon entry stuff. So, but I'm super excited. I'm really, really excited to punch some stuff to death with Helm. I do think it's probably gonna end pretty poorly for him most of the time, and I'll be a little
Yeah.
bit sad. But hopefully, Hera and Olwen are also awesome. So
Yeah, I think it's going to be good fun. Although I do think it's the kind of army that if it doesn't go, when it starts to go badly for you, it's going to go badly very quickly.
yeah, I think it's gonna be mega depressing to play like Gondor, like generic Minas Tirith, where I'm like, you outfight me. I need 6s to kill you. You need 5s to kill me, and like Helm needs 4s, which is pretty nice, but you know, it's
5
still
to Terran's shield wall, which is obnoxious.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see. We then shall see. What about you? What
Cool.
did you
Well,
settle on?
actually, I was going to say in counterpoint to you, but I chose first and talked you into playing the besiegers,
Mm.
the defenders of the Hornburg. I am playing the besiegers of the Hornburg. I shall be besieging Sam in his Hornburg with Wolf, General Targ. I think I've got 2 captains, and of course, the whole reason that I want to play the besiegers of the Hornburg is Shank and Rot and the Snow Troll. I think they're super awesome. I think the rules that they have are hilarious. Rot finding tasty fingers to get wounds and fate back is hysterical. And both of them looking for rings for Mordor for victory points on a 6 if they kill someone is fantastic. And the Snow Troll itself is a really cool model. I'm really excited for monsters this edition. I don't think it's the best monster, but I think it's got some punch for it. And it's kind of hard to say, right? Because it's 150 points for the 3 of them, and you don't really know how many points the troll is. Is it like a 75-point hill troll? A Mordor troll is 90 points. Where does the hill troll fall?
The Snow Troll. I would bet he's in the like 75 to 85.
Yeah,
point
I was
range.
going to imagining about 80 points for the Snow Troll.
Yeah. It is. They are super cool. Definitely the reason to play that army. This is where I'm sad about the allies thing not being a thing anymore. Is like I want to put them in more armies because I think it's super neat.
Yeah, the Sieges of the Hornburg itself, I also don't think is a fantastic legion. I don't think I'm going to win Adepticon with it at all. But I've played it in the slow grow, and it's a lot of fun to play with. I have a great time with it. So Wolf is a real asshole, and it's fun just to have that sort of punchy character that you don't mind being cowardly with, because that's just so on brand for him.
Yeah, sure.
Hide behind my battle lines and strike at the opportune moment. You're not like, you feel a bit weird doing that with Bolg sometimes, because he's supposed to be Bolg, he's supposed to be crushing people all the time.
Yeah.
Wolf's like, I'm a coward, I'm gonna hide behind the lines all day.
All right, Ben. So we've both said we don't think we'll do terribly well, which is fine. There was a brief blip in my Lord of the Rings playing career where I considered trying to win one of these events, and thankfully Jake talked me out of it. So
Good old Jake.
As always, I strive to be a little bit more like Jake every day. But
Should we all?
right, indeed. But Ben, what do you think? What do we should go into this when at an episode closer to Adepticon for sure. But what do you think? Do you have any predictions of what we're going to see win, or a lot of, or be the ones that the people you're like, yes, I see you're here to win are playing?
I think we're going to see a lot of Legolas for people who are here to win.
For sure.
I think it's going to be mostly good armies on the top 10 and top 20 tables. I want to say Men of the West are going to feature strongly.
Yeah.
I don't think at 700 that the Eagles are the boogeymen that they are at like 450.
No.
Although I don't know what I would do against Guahir and whatever it is, 5 Eagles.
Yeah, it's just more the missions
play the objective and hope for the best.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there'll be plenty of Legolases, which is a pain. He was already a pain.
Scout is still is strong this edition. I still think it's strong at 700. I think it wouldn't surprise me to see Ugluk Scouts running around.
Ugluk Scouts. Sorry, I didn't hear you first. Yeah, I think Battle of Fornost is going to be incredibly popular.
I always forget. I forget about the whole Angmar supplement as a just thing. It just dropped out of my brain.
Yeah, I think that supplement has actually got some really good stuff in. I think obviously the people who are there to win are going to be butthurt about Gulliver, unless the Chicago Harlot League rules that he is move 12, which I will lose my shit about if they do. So I think Battle of Fornost has a very popular character in Glorfindel. He's an awesome model.
That's the only way to play Glorfindel.
Right, currently, for sure. But he is a very popular elf hero, it's also very good.
It is.
It's got the Call Winds, which is essentially like old Sorcerer's Blast. It can knock people out of combat and do all of these shenanigans. And on top of that, both of your heroes are like amazing at killing monsters, and monsters are very good currently. So will probably be more monsters. So if you have something to kill monsters, same reason why I think is quite good, because you've got +1 to hit and wound monsters or whatever. Um, so yeah, interesting. We should have a think about it and come back with any other solid predictions. I think if for evil, I think the one that seems very popular and quite good is the Army of Minas Morgul, or whatever that one's called.
Oh yeah, I guess it's Army of Minas Morgul. Host of the Witch King is the other is the Angmar
one. Yeah.
I was also going to say I think the Last Alliance is fairly strong, although I haven't seen as much of it around as I thought I was going to. So
yeah, I think everyone's upset with Gil-galad and the Lendil both losing horses.
I don't know if we've said it yet, but I really am enjoying the age of foot heroes. Like before, it was if he can take a horse, he takes a horse because you got to take the stupid horse. But now it's like 20 points for a horse, and like if I'm honest, General Targ is on foot, and he's always gonna be on foot because I don't think it's worth putting a two attack. Sure, he's my access to fight 5 in the army, but I don't think a 2-attack hero is worth it on the horse when I could take 3 more hillmen for that cost of that horse.
I think the one that's going to be funny.
I could have a Crebain for that horse.
Yeah, I think the one that's going to be funny is I think Gothmog should go on a Wag if you're playing him this edition. I don't think you'll probably be playing him much, but I do think he might be better.
You've gone back around.
Yeah.
Gothmog's got to be on his Wag now after being.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. He's the only punch you have in that army. And as far as like characters go, the troll.
Sure, yeah. I mean, your punch is the trolls, or your now if you're fighting men, strength 4, fight 4, Morannons. It's just more like if Gothmog needs to kill like one thing, you now want the extra attack and charge with him.
Yeah,
but that is neither here nor there.
Distracted, but it's so difficult to write army lists for Army of Gothmog because you want to take like 2 trolls but that's like 18 Morannon orcs that you could be taking.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
But enough on the Army of Gothmog. If you want to hear more about the Army of Gothmog, we haven't actually done this yet, but it will be coming in the future. Which is, of course, we're back on or over on our Patreon. We're doing Half Pint episodes where we're going through all of the different armies, giving you our thoughts, feelings, and experiences, if any, we have with them. We have just released one about Burdur's Horde, and we've got another one coming out shortly. If that sounds interesting to you, and or you want to support the channel, definitely check out our Patreon. It's really what helps us do this.
And most importantly, Sam, we rate these army lists on the best scale you can rate anything in Middle Earth, which is of course on a scale of 0 to 13 unexpected dwarves. So as all things in Middle Earth should be rated on the scale, best scale ever. It's highly amusing to just consider how many dwarves and what dwarves are you rating even.
Yeah. And what hoods have they got on? Yes. So, all right, Ben. I think. Is there anything else you want to chat about as far as preparing for Adepticon, picking the armies, any of that stuff?
No, not really. I'm really looking forward to it. I was ready for this as like a vacation from life, but also because I look forward to Adepticon, not just for the Lord of the Rings games, but for hanging out with friends. Like I said, hobbying at the convention. It's a great convention. I'm super excited to go, and I've been looking forward to it for a really long time. Even if it does mean I'm going to be driving, 10 hours down to get to you, and then we're going to drive 15 hours out to Milwaukee. It's not 15.
No, it's like 12
13?
or 13. It's not that much further than.
And then it's another 2 on, isn't it? Anyway,
whatever. Yeah,
it'll be a great road trip time. Looking forward.
Yeah, but we avoided tolls going to Chicago, which added about like 2 hours. Gotcha. So we're just not going to do that this time. So it'll be more expensive, but isn't that much further.
Nice.
But yeah. All right. So with that, Ben, and talking about what army lists we think are going to win, the armies that we're playing, I think one of the things that I have been deeply considering, or more deeply than previously, with the sort of start of the new edition, or the start of the current edition, and starting to go back to events, because I sort of took a lull at the end of the previous edition, because I knew the new stuff was coming out, and that's what I was excited about, and I was just kind of like, can't be bothered. Mm-hmm. is the sort of like why, why, what motivates people to play and win, and what drives that. And because I've had some really interesting games with people who I really I rate them as a person. They're a good individual, like totally chill, like whatever it is, and then you play them and you're just like, why would you make that? Like, you're making these choices. I understand why. I understand we're at a tournament. I think that's part of the problem, is you're at a tournament, must win tournament. But you're making choices that are just like strictly not fun for your opponent.
Yeah,
and
they're considered only in a competitive lens.
Right, and don't make sense if we're recreating Little Battle on tabletop, which we are. Like, we're all adults, grown-ups, pushing little plastic men around and be like, they're fighting. Like, don't make sense in that regard. And I think it's a really interesting thing to consider the motivation behind.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the point of the game. Well, God, the point of the game is to win, right? It's not really. The point of the game is to have fun and enjoy yourself. But as far as like, this is the rules of the game, this is what I'm doing, and I'm gonna be awarded points for X, Y, and Z. Like it's sort of framed in a like, I'm trying to win this, right? Like, that's why our little guys are fighting. They're fighting to win this victory.
I would disagree, though. I think the point of the game is the point of it is a game, right? It is to have fun. It should be fun for both people. It's like you're entering into a social contract of like, we're agreeing to follow this set of rules, and we're going to play this game, and I should have fun, you should have fun. The problem, the sort of like line there is, I might have fun in a very different way than you have fun.
Sure.
Which, like your fun could be, I'm going to play this game within the very letter of the law, and I'm going to do it the absolute best way I possibly can. If I make 0 mistakes, I will win this game, and I will have had fun because I've known I've been the best possible gamer I can be. Whereas for me, I'm like, I want to roll a fistful of dice. I want Helm to go kill a bunch of people. You have a big monster. Like, surely you want that to go stomp on a bunch of people. I will make that more possible for you, rather than like running away from it the entire time. I think there's
I guess, where do you draw the line between like feeding my Gundabad troll Rohan guys so that I can just be like, gonna slaughter guy, and just for the sake of having a discussion.
Sure.
Gonna slaughter guys and being like, okay, if I just keep feeding that troll 8 guys a turn, I'm gonna lose this game like very, very quickly. I guess there's got to be a line somewhere there, because you don't just want to throw away the game,
right?
In the sense of like, my army is fighting to win, not
right. So
not win at all costs, but like I am playing to win.
Right. So where I draw the line of that, or where the way I think about that, right, is like, okay, so there are 2 ways I can deal with, 3 ways I can deal with your big Gundabad ogre or troll. Gundabad troll, ogre's small, troll's big. And they have a varying degree of success possibility. The Gundabad troll is a tough one because it's on such a big base; it's much easier to do in some ways. But I can either be like, I'm going to stay 6.5 inches away from this the entire game. I guess there's 4 ways, but these are my thoughts. I can stay 6.5 inches or 6 in the millimeter. I can stay outside of its charge. It will never see combat. That is at all, like, that is not fun. It's also very hard to do in the sense that then you can just be like, I'll put everyone around him. Or I can throw my 2 giant heroes into it. I can strike with both of them and try and kill it before it gets a chance to do anything, right? Or you can be like, I'll put 1 warrior into it, position the rest of my army around, so even if you barge, you're going to get into another 1. You're killing like 1 model a turn. You get to fight with it, but none of them matter. I have manipulated the space around it with terrain or whatever that it's only killing 1 model. Also, not terribly fun for the person controlling the troll. Or in the sense, because I know the situation you're talking about, is I'm going to feed it enough warriors that you incentivized to just try and kill the warriors and not barge and go somewhere I would rather you not be.
Sure.
You win, you kill a bunch of warriors. Not ideal for me, but you also need threes, so you'll fail some of them. And I can feed you like 3 to 6 models, probably 4 is the ideal a turn. On average, probably 1 or 2 of those survive, right? And if I somehow win, maybe I do a wound. And then I can do the rest of the stuff. You get to happily roll your troll. You probably roll 6s, or you don't, depending who you're playing, if it's me or not. And you get to kill models, and you're less like, well, if I barge here, I could probably get my troll into that captain. And I'm like, well, I need that captain, and then I kill your captain in one shot. And you're like, ah, damn. So that's sort of where I make some of those decisions, because also like it's hilarious in that same game where I had one Rohan warrior like got the 6 and was like, yeah, I've beaten this troll, like you get some of those interactions. So yeah. I think the 2 worst things you can do are, yeah, you have this monster, but I just will never be in range of it, or I'm going to like nickel and dime you on control zones and spaces and let you only get 1 model a turn. Like that's just like, I paid so many points for this, and it's just frustrating, or I find very frustrating. And that's when I get into the places of like, okay, well now I'm gonna like do everything I can to hurl a model at your big hero and knock him off his horse. So
Yeah. So interesting discussion. I just wanted to clarify, because it's an interesting line to walk, right? You're like, I want to have fun and I want you to have fun, but if I'm not careful, I'm going to throw this game because I'm making decisions, that are. Because you're right. Like in some ways, it's so much easier to be like, here's a monster. Here's a guy. He took his courage test. He charged that troll, and now here's a bunch of control zones, and like the troll is going to maybe kill 2 models a turn. And I'm like just going to swarm it with control zones, and like that's how I'm going to lock it down and deal with it. And like that's actually quite easy to do. It's much harder to feed it the right number of models a turn so that the troll feels like it's getting something done, but you're still controlling the battlefield. It's a much riskier game to play. Much more fun for both players, I agree. But it's like you got to walking that line, I guess, can be challenging.
I think the thing is, right, is in my ideal game, I'm not thinking about winning or losing. I'll try and remember to play the objectives. My ideal game is I'm like, my guys move 6 inches. I just shove a line forwards. You shove a line forwards. We roll a bunch of dice. A bunch of models dies, whether they're mine or yours. Like, oh no, this is all like by yours. It's literally anyone but you. I am the worst version of myself when we play. It's terrible. I hate it. It's the actual worst. But in a situation, we have this clash, we roll some dice, Helm kills a bunch of stuff, Bold kills a bunch of stuff, the game ends. I'm happy just to be like, cool, let's go get a snack now. Like, I don't need to work out the points. And obviously, in a lot of what we talk about on this show is playing in a tournament where you do need to track the points and there's an incentive to win.
Right.
And I think for me, one of the interesting things about it is the incentive to win. And that's kind of what I'm curious about, because we've gone to a lot of events across the US.
So many events.
And I think the US is slightly unique in, at least as far as I understand, I could be very wrong and I don't know about Australia, but the Great British Hobbit League, it seems to be very rare that there's like a cash prize. Whereas most US events, there is a cash prize. There's still credit, right? So yes, you can play for money. That's pretty appealing. However, it's not cash, right? It's usually still credit. So you've already paid for the event in cash. You've paid for the expense of going there. Certainly for us, like any of the events where I've won Best Painted and you've placed, and it was like a big event where we each got like close to $100 in store credit. Didn't even come close to covering the cost of like the hotel and the gas to get there, right? So it's, when you think about it like that, it's not like, man, if I win this event, that's 10 grand. Then I'm like, fine.
You're not a professional Lord of the Rings player,
right?
By any,
So there's that. So there's the cash prize part of it. Fine, cool. There's cool trophies. I am the first person to tell you that I am quite intrigued by anything that's got a cool looking trophy. Like I got into not actually competing or anything, but like I was like, ooh, strongman's kind of cool because I saw the trophies they can win. It's like Atlas. It's giant and he's holding the like planet on his back, and I'm like, that's hilarious. That's like the coolest trophy you could have for being a strongman. Like that's awesome. So Adepticon is more appealing to me to try and win because it's got those official Games Workshop Lord of the Rings One Ring trophy. Like that's cool. However, it will sit on a shelf or a display case and I will never look at it. Right? I'm not like every day I'm not like, man, what a
One
trophy, you
trophy to
know?
rule them all. Polish
Right?
it.
You're not like, yes. You know, so there's that. I do understand that like that's appealing. I suspect for some people, certainly not me, that there is a level of like, I am the best in this at this time in this event. I have won, and therefore, like that fills me with pride. I have achieved something that feels good, and I suspect that is quite whether it's subconsciously or not. I expect that's quite a lot of what people do, whether it's the like competing with yourself and being like I'm the best war gamer I possibly can be. I've won all these through my skill. I have won.
Hmm.
I bet that's part of
I
it.
can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, I do get some of that, but in my mind, I'm like through my skill or playing this doesn't if I have done that by having 5 barrow wights and paralyzing every big thing the opponent has and just stabbing it while it's on the ground, and like everyone walked away from the table being like, well, that kind of sucked. Like I would rather lose than have that happen.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I think we can all. I think that's fairly common for that to be the case. It's more the sort of. I guess you can because you can play competitively without even bringing magic to the board, right? You can
Sure.
and you can give your opponent a negative play experience without having that kind of army, and that kind of army being the kind of army where I do something that you can't interact with, and my thing is shutting you down, right?
Yeah.
That is generally a very negative play experience. It's not hard to make that a negative play experience. Actually, it can be quite hard to make it a positive play experience.
Yeah.
Versus like I've got, let's say, Battle of Fornos. We were talking about that earlier. I've got 2 big heroes. I'm going to come in. I'm just going to completely obliterate your army, and I'm going to do it in such a way that I take your big pieces off the board as quickly and as effectively as possible. That can be a negative play experience. Versus, like, I'm going to move my heroes around, I'm going to chop your army to pieces, let you chop some of my army to pieces, and then come in and take you down. Could be a much more positive playing experience for your opponent. And I've kind of forgotten where I was going with this.
Yeah, I think one of the prime examples of something like this is like at the end of the last edition, right? The sort of like one of the couple of boogeymen, as it were,
Mm-hmm.
or armies, were the Legion of the Dragon Emperor and Assault on Lothlorien.
Sure.
One of those I would always rather play. I don't care that Easterlings outfight me. I don't care that the Dragon Emperor is way overtuned. Like, that game plan is they're going to march forwards and try and kill me. That is
Mm-hmm.
something that, like, I can also, like, they can't win every single fight. It's just, I mean, sure, they can
Yeah.
win the majority of them. Maybe it's a dice game, it's random. There is a universe out there where somebody's played the host of the Dragon Emperor and didn't lose a single fight. Like, that is possible. Shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
happen statistically, right? And then you're going to kill some Easterlings. And if you're playing an army like the ones I tend to enjoy with big smashy things, you get more of a game out of that. Versus something like the
Yeah.
Assault on Lothlorien that's like, I'm going to do shenanigans, I'm going to jump on your hero with a bat, and then I'm going to kill it. I'm going to shoot you to death with +1 to wound, I'm going to disengage. It just is like, all right, man, like, are we ever going to get to it? And you're like, in an hour and a half, yes, when you've got like 10 models left, then we can fight, you know? It's the same way of you could play the Riders of Aemir and just be an entirely cavalry, like running around skirmishing army, and you're like,
Oh no.
shoot you, shoot you, shoot you. Now when we have even numbers and I'm an all cavalry army, I'll engage. But you know, so yeah, I think I just think it's an interesting thing, and I think if people like deeply considered why they were winning or like why they were striving so hard and playing the game in the way they were, I wonder it would be potentially a more generically more fun experience. And I'm certainly not saying you should go in and try and lose every game.
Mm.
I just think that you can do. I think you can both win and make everyone have fun, tell a story, and be a person. Like, and I get it, right? The thing that I care about in all of these events, like deeply care about, like to a detriment. Like this is like not a good thing. This is a character flaw as much as anything. I want to win the best painted. Like I want to win that so badly every single time, and it doesn't matter whether the person who beats me is better at painting or worse at painting. Like I'm always disappointed. I'm never gonna be like mad about it unless somebody like finger painted their shit and they're like, and I'm like, do you have eyes? You know, but like, or the thing I'm gonna be mad about is like not necessarily that I won, but that like it feels like there was a better army that wasn't looked at, and there's like like so there's stuff that I might be mad about, but I'm never mad that like I didn't win specifically. It's
right,
and part of that, right? Part of the reason I am like that is because at whatever point in my like I have tied my self-worth, how I feel about myself, to the judgment of other random people, whether it's community, whether it's like attendee voted or judge voted, like whatever. Like I have tied how I feel about myself. Like I feel so much better about myself when I win best painted. I'm like, I'm recognized. I feel like, seen. And I'm like, great. I have done the thing. I have achieved. Fantastic. The reality is, never fucking think about it afterwards. I'm never like, man, that was a great day. I won best painted that day. But at the time, if I lose, I have very negative feelings. I'm just like, oh, geez, I'm not, not good enough. Need to work on this, like whatever. Versus if I win, I'm like, woo. Conveniently for me and how I am as a person, I don't feel that way so much about winning and losing. I get salty if I lose. I don't like losing, but I don't need to win to feel good about myself. The issue is when I lose and get shitty, I feel bad about myself because I'm like, objectively, this is just like, it's a game. Who cares? I shouldn't this shouldn't matter.
Yeah. I guess it's interesting. I don't like winning by a large margin. If I manage to ever 20-0 someone in this edition, I'll feel awful.
Yeah, sure.
So I think my perfect tournament, my perfect Adepticon, if you will, Sam, will be to go 6-0, but they'll all be minor victories. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That'd be my perfect Adepticon.
Yeah,
it's fun to win. It's totally fun to win, but I don't like winning by a landslide.
But like, I don't think. Certainly for me, right? I don't care about the points.
No,
I care about the game. Like I played Avery at that 450 point event, the mini Earth event, and it ended up being like quite a lot to like one, right?
Yeah.
But
I hear that.
I got to kill a bunch of stuff. It was an interesting game. Just the way because sometimes it's out of your control, right? It's like you get 3 models off in Maelstrom, and I don't manage to get any off. But I've killed all of your models. You just shot 3 people. That's 12 points. There's nothing you can do about that with the exception.
You're right. I guess most of what I meant is that like a 6-8 victory or an 8-6 victory is often indicative of a fun game because it's been
sure.
It could have been anyone's the whole way. And like you're right, like a 12-1 victory could have been the same way in that like you were butchering my army and I just managed to recon 3 guys. But generally, I think like those close victories by 2 or 3 victory points tend to have been much more interesting games the whole way, just because they often could have gone one way or the other, or
sure.
At least the player that's losing is like, I'm one roll off from taking the game back.
Yeah. I think for me with winning, and it's similar. It's sort of easier for me to illustrate with like a painting thing. Is I don't want to win. Like, I wouldn't want to win any of these big tournaments because I just happen to play 6 people who they're like, this is my first game, or this is my 6th game, where you're just like, I just lucked into an insane... Or in the same way, like, I don't want to win Best Painted because I showed up and nobody painted their stuff. Or, like, tragedy happened at Adepticon, somebody fell into a cabinet, broke all of the Lord of the Rings entries, and then I showed up with mine, Like, I don't want to win because of, like... I would be stoked to have that demon, but I don't like. I want to win because I did the thing, and it was a fair and even competition for everyone.
Gotcha. What you're saying is I should have bought Operation GD Smash.
The always funny joke to not make around the cabinets, right? But
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we've talked about this quite a
Well, we
lot.
have.
This is something I'm truly interested in. If you have a I like to win because of this or that, this is what drives me, this is what motivates me. Please let me know. I am legitimately curious, and I really am not trying to say that that's not the way to play, or it's shit. Like, there are definitely people who like to win or win a lot who do make it just generally not fun. Like, that's a bummer, but I don't think that's at all the majority of people, or that even those people are truly intending to do that. But sort of the last thing I want to talk about in this, and then we can move on and then close up the episode, is something I stumbled across recently, which I'm sure it's been around. Has been a known thing for a while, but in Magic the Gathering development, there's this concept of that every Magic player is a combination of 3 psychographic profiles, which is Timmy, Johnny, and Spike. And maybe you've heard of this, maybe you haven't. But the idea is you're a combination of all these people, and you can of all these profiles, and you can change over at different times or different places or whatever in your life. But basically, the idea is that Timmy likes big things, loves the monsters, likes things to smash, likes to go and is totally cool with random stuff. Like, if it enables one big payoff, one big event. Doesn't overly care about winning and losing, as long as both, and ideally wants their opponent to have a good time, and as long as both people got to do their thing, right? Really dislikes, in Magic terms, counter spells and control decks. So anything that stops you, Barrow Whites, from doing your stuff. That is the antithesis of a Timmy. Where Johnny, on the other hand, the biggest focus and priority is showing uniqueness through building, whether in Magic it's a deck, or in wargaming it's an army list. Wants to make combos, what cool things can I do.
Sure.
Again, is okay with some amount of randomness, and again doesn't care so much about winning or losing, as long as they got to show off their unique ability and that they were the best at doing something that nobody else is doing. I want to make a Lord of the Rings super army.
Yeah, right.
And then Spike is on the more competitive side, doesn't like anything that's random, with the exception of if you have an ability to control the randomness. Elrond's foresight points would be a great example of something that Spike's really into, because you roll priority, you can manipulate it one way or the other. I guess actually maybe it's just up now, whatever. Is plays the meta thing, wants to win, is also it's all about player skill expression. So I want to be the best possible person I can. I want to win by being better than my opponent. Is okay with losing, but only if their opponent is better than them.
Sure.
If it comes down to a coin flip and they lose, that's going to be the worst. So it's just sort of an interesting thing. It's not something that I'm super familiar with, but it is an interesting thing to sort of think about. What. So, and you can have combinations of them, right? You might be more Timmy and Spike than Johnny, where you're I want to play big smashy monsters, but I want to win, and I want to be the most skilled at using these monsters. Or you might be a Johnny and Spike, where you're I want to play a really unique list that only I have come up with, and I want to use my skill and just absolutely steamroll through people. So it's just sort of an interesting thing because like
Yeah.
I definitely relate to like I want to play big smashy things. I want people to like be able to do their thing and have a good time.
You also definitely want your army to be the most unique and that the
Yeah.
most beautiful army on the board, and you want to take home that best painted award. So
Sure, that's
a little bit of, and maybe
slightly
doing because it's a different competition.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So it's just an interesting thing to think about in the sense of like what does motivate me to pick this army. Like, while I don't have a big monster in Defenders of the Hornburg, I certainly have an awesome big like Helm Hammerhand.
Pugilist.
Yeah, a pugilist. He was a pugilist. So anyway, so that's sort of. I feel like this has been a lot of me just talking and.
Oh no, it's been interesting. I've been interjecting questions, and it's been a good discussion. I've enjoyed it, but I think we have perhaps rambled on a little bit about on this topic, Sam. Looking at the timestamp of this episode here, other things yet to discuss.
Yeah, we can move forwards. I'm sure this will come back around, Ben, because
it definitely will. I think we should bring it back around in the context of our battle reports. If we can think of these moments when you're like, hey, could have done this, but didn't, and it possibly cost me the game. Maybe it didn't cost me the game. Maybe it didn't matter at all. But this was a decision that I made for the good of my opponent's fun, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we should continue to look at in our podcast, because we're obviously not trying to be a podcast where you don't come to Gondor Calls for L to learn how to win tournaments. Okay, like go somewhere else for that. We love you if you win tournaments. Come here, that's fine. But that's not our overriding goal here. So I definitely think it's a discussion that we're going to continue to have.
Yeah,
and I do look forward to seeing how potentially even in these 6 games at Adepticon we implement some of these things we've been talking about.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it'll be. It's the kind of thing where it's like, if I, was like, oh, here, I want to play Defenders of the Hornburg, like, build me the best possible list you can. X person who's good at winning things. If they showed back, if they were like, here's this list I've written for you, and it didn't have Helm in there, I'd be like, I can't play it. Like, whatever points we're paying 180 point tax. Like, Helm is in the army.
Here with the Defenders of the Hornburg, whatever we're paying 150. Besiegers of the Hornburg,
right?
Sorry. We're paying 150 point tax of Shank and Rot. This is the Shank and Rot show.
Yeah.
And Snow Troll and Wolf and Tiger here for the ride.
Yeah. All right, Ben. Well, with talking about shows and other stuff,
nice. Well done.
Yeah. So it was like we perfectly planned.
Perfect.
As I have spoken ad nauseum about this last thing, do you want to move us on into our next segment? Make our
looking ahead, if you will. So Sam and I have since the New Year, since Christmas, been playing games with each other. We've been playing. We've got 8 games played now, and we have been recording them with a camera that we bought ourselves for Christmas.
It's called filming.
Filming. We've been filming them. Call them shells. We've been filming these games, and we're going to be starting to release some battle report podcast or video cast episodes. In which you can watch us and our tactical acumen make these choices. You can watch Sam decide how many riders or warriors of Rohan to feed my big Gondor troll. The discussion that we were having earlier in the podcast was about this particular incident. We're not 100% sure when we're going to release them yet. We want to get enough of them saved up that we can sort of release them on a rolling schedule of 1 a week for the first couple of weeks, and then stick to this bi-weekly schedule that the podcast comes out on. We will still, of course, be producing the podcast. Fear not, that's not going away. But it's one of the reasons why we lapsed a little bit on our half pints for the Patreon, because we've been working on these battle reports.
Yeah. So we're taking a stab at something that many nerds and gamers who have these kind of channels do, filming some games. We've been having a good time doing it, trying to play themed stuff. You'll get to hear all about Glob and his rebellion on his wrong size base, but that's fine.
That's okay. Get him on the right base.
Yeah. So hopefully, we decided, we're, as Ben said, the podcast's not going anywhere. We really enjoyed doing it, but it would be cool to do some other stuff. And as also Ben said in this episode, and we've sort of talked about it a little bit at the end of the last edition and as moving forwards, like we're not the guys to go to like, here are the top 10 profiles, here's the best army list to run to win this event. Like, we've both placed in events, I've won an event, we've done okay at doubles, but it's not something we do consistently, and I don't think it's something that we like overly care about.
No, it's not a goal for us.
And so it's more about having fun and playing games and doing cool themey stuff. So we decided we wanted to, try and share that in a different way with doing some video battle reports. We started by basically just doing match play stuff, but there's certainly room for, one of the things we talked about is doing our own little like War of the Rohirrim campaign that involves none of the named characters, and we're like, this is Hubbard and his little village that this Dunlanding chief, it's the like Hera is under siege in the Hornburg, and Wolf's king of Rohan, and all of these people are getting kicked out of their homes, and whatever it is. So hopefully that's something that is intriguing and or interesting to you, and we'll be releasing them sometime, depending. Partially it's a scheduling thing, right? We live a reasonable distance apart, and so we want to basically record a bunch of them while Ben's in town. But we also want to be able to consistently deliver them, because I think that's one of the things I like to think that we've done really well with the podcast is the consistency.
Yeah, we're definitely not consistent, Sam.
Right? Even if it's just a like made up shitty episode like this one, right? It's still coming out 2 weeks after the last one. So we've sort of talked about doing like 10 weeks in a row of a video every week or something, and then moving into a 2-week schedule. And so yeah, that's I think we're thinking about sometime this spring or summer.
Yeah, potentially as part of our birthday, we will start releasing them.
Our third birthday.
Oh, very exciting, very exciting. Getting old here. Ancient at Gondor calls me.
Yeah.
3 beers old. But I mean, like you said, Sam, a lot of other people have gotten on video, on film, and recorded games, and they're great to watch, good fun. But I think are trying to do it in just a little bit of a different lens, in that vein of like, hey, it's beer and pretzels. Come here for a good time. I'm not going to try and, we're not like plotting our list in secret, and I'm going to be like, here comes my 12-0 of Sam's army. I'm just going to dismantle him off the board. That's not the objective here in these at all. We really just want to champion that here for a good time, not necessarily a long time, because our battles have been bloody. We played a Birdo's Horde versus Arathorn's Last Stand, where there were, no models left on the board, I think, towards the end of that. It was great.
Yeah. So, hopefully sometime soon, and hopefully this can, start you getting interested and exciting, and, you'll have to forgive our poor video editing for a while as we progressively get better at it, hopefully, fingers crossed. But that is that's sort of this year at Gondor Calls for Ale. That's what we're sort of striving for, is to get these, get more Gondor Calls for Ale out there, more Lord of the Rings content out there, and try and push the content that we deliver at the very least into a like, hey man, this is a game and for fun. Like, this is what we like. Look, we really enjoy playing this in a for fun way, and telling a story and making a narrative, and whatever it is, being like, oh, this guy draws a sword and leaps over a barrier, even though he didn't necessarily need to do that. And maybe that this will be the slow, the small footsteps, like the coming of doom or whatever, that soon we'll have a community of people who are like, prizes for winning? Psh, no.
Prizes for sportsmanship.
Yes.
And telling the best tale.
Yeah,
having the best theme.
Yeah, all right. Well, we've done a long one.
We rambled on and on.
Yeah,
Ramble goes ever on and on, Sam.
It sure does. Something about stepping out of your door or opening your mouth. You never know where it might take you. I think with that, we are going to end this episode. Like all things, this too must end. And we will be back in a couple weeks with another episode. I think we'll be talking about Ben's attendance of Slow Grow Part 2.
Yeah, let's see if Wolf can continue his rampage. Can I get another 3 challenges and remain undefeated?
Yeah.
Exciting to see.
Until then, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. Consider giving us a like, drop us a comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. And thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting the channel. And we'll be back.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Gondor Calls for Ale. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. We at Gondor Calls for Ale are officially sponsored by the Baron of Dice, the producer of premium wargaming dice. These beautifully hand-swirled resin dice have no micro bubbles and are therefore perfectly balanced. With over 3,000 variants and unique designs, nearly every tabletop gaming system is represented. So check out the description of this episode for a link and a discount code. Go buy yourself some new dice and let the good times roll. We at Gondor Calls for Ale are not associated with Games Workshop, New Line Cinema, or the Tolkien Estate. We hope we have not misrepresented or offended anyone. These recordings are strictly recollections of games we've played and are not commentaries on the character or competence of our opponents. They are intended purely for entertainment, and we hope they will be taken as such. You can find us on Patreon, see the link in the description. Supporting Gondor Calls for Ale there helps us continue to produce these episodes. You can find us on Instagram at Gondor_calls_for_ale. Feel free to send us a message there. Or on Facebook as Gondor Calls for Ale, another great place to send us a message. Or you can send us an email at gondorcallsforale@gmail.com. As Boromir, Captain of the White Tower, once said, remember today, listener, today this episode was good.